We're here once again live on a super windy afternoon in Vassiliki. This is more of the board meeting series. The idea that it's a live on board podcast, so yes you are. If you're listening to this podcast rather than watching the video, I'm travelling pretty fast right now, very powered up on Vassiliki Bay in Greece here. And the subject of today's podcast and discussion with myself is fins and spinout. The correlation between those two, and hopefully how you can pick the right fin or do the right things to prevent too much spinout. Here we are. Now before we can start looking into getting the right fin, we probably need to know a little bit more about what a fin does and just the basic bit of how it works. So I'm not going to get too sciencey, but basically the fin creates a bit of lift. Through the pressure of the water running across of it, it gives us lift from the water, so it helps us get planing by having a fin. It also creates lateral resistance, which in another word stops us slipping sideways and makes everything a bit more stable. So in short, you need a fin. And to be super overly simplified, the longer the fin, the easier you're going to get planing, the more stable it's going to be, and the easier it's going to go upwind. But of course it wouldn't be that true. It wouldn't be that simple, or everyone would just have really, really long fins. So why might you have a different one, and how does it make you choose a different fin? How does it affect us with what's going on? Now, going back, what I just said there is a longer fin gives you more lift. The pressure on it across it, squeezing the fin, kind of like squeezing a triangle-shaped bar of soap, and the board will then pop up and out the water. So too long a fin, the fin is too long, you get too much lift, and you won't be able to control it. The board will be flapping around all over the place. Likewise, too small a fin, and you'll probably start getting spin out, which is where the board spins sideways, and a bit more of that in a second. But just as likely, you just won't be able to get the board to plane because the fin isn't big enough. What spin out is, I'll come to soon, but let's go first of all, how do you choose the right fin? What's the right size for your board? Now, I'm going to turn around and we'll have a think about that one. Like I said, if you're not watching the video right now, full power on a 6.5 ACX and a 103 iSonic, blasting at mid-20 knots across the bay. And how do you choose the right fin? So, the easiest way to get started with what fin do I need is a little bit of Googling, a little bit of research, and try and work out what fin that board originally was supplied with, what sort of shape, and what sort of length. And that will at least get you in a rough ballpark idea of what the manufacturers, who do put a lot of R&D into their fins and the boards matching, the combination of those two. So start with doing some research and saying, okay, it's a 110 Futura, this is the fin that they supply the board with, therefore this is a good starting point. Because, and to manage your expectations, I'm not going to tell you what is the right size fin for your board in today's podcast. I'm going to give you the tools that allow you to make your own decision. Because, and this is where it leads to now, the right size fin. Generally, when boards are provided, when the manufacturers do their R&D, they want those boards to get planing as early as possible. They want the people writing the magazines and doing videos like me to say, you know what, yes, I took that board for a spin, it was beautiful, really early planing. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by adding 2 to 4 centimetres on what would be a more normal size fin for the board. So generally when they're supplied, they come with reasonable fins, but they're often a little bit too big. So if the board you're buying hasn't been supplied with a fin, it's a second-hand one, which, let's be honest, is the cheapest way to get hold of kit. Find what the recommended size is, and depending on what conditions you're going to be in, downsize it by 2 to 4 centimetres. what I mean by depending on the conditions you're going to be in is if you know that you're generally underpowered or on bigger sails, stick with that larger fin. It'll help you. If you know you're going to be generally powered up, go 2 to 4 centimeters smaller, and that'll stop you getting too much lift from the fin, and sometimes that's called tail walking. I won't go too much into the details, but there is a difference if you buy a more expensive, better, let's say better, that's a funny term, a more expensive, higher performance fin that's made of carbon, rather than something that's a plastic moulding or a little bit, let's say, less good. There will be a bit of a difference for it. You'll get more efficiency in the wind you have. You'll get a higher speed, generally a nicer feeling from the board. It does help having a good carbon fin. Now, what about shapes of fin? Because you'll see there's all kinds of different shapes of fins, and it does make quite a difference matching the right shape to the right board and really what you want from your board as well. Now, for that, the manufacturers have gone back to nature. Much like, I'm sure you've seen in the Olympics, the shark suits for the swimmers. They've made synthetic shark skin, allowing swimmers to have less friction in the water compared to a human skin. They went back to nature for that. Windsurfing and fins have done exactly the same. If you want to go fast in a straight line, what animal would you think of? Sea-based animal this is, of course. I think of an orca, a killer whale, a barracuda, something like that. With long, straight fins. And that's exactly what you'll see from those animals, or those fish or mammals, as you'd get from a slalom fin designed to go straight and fast. The other extreme, I think, something that's turning, something that's playful, something that wants to go round corners, like a wave board, I'd be looking at a dolphin. That swept back, wavy looking fin makes the whole thing way more maneuverable and playful. A dolphin loves to play, the wave boards want to play and turn. And that's probably the easiest way of knowing what sort of fin you're looking at. When you then go to the hybrid, somewhere in the middle, something you get on your classic free-ride equipment, something like a carve or a yo, for example, they're not fully locked out straight, quite like a slalom fin. They'll have a bit of rake, a bit of swept backness to them, a little bit of wavy lookingness, just to help them go around corners. They want a good top speed, and they want to be maneuverable, so they need that blend of the two. Summary then, before I move on to spin out and why that happens and what you can do. A longer fin will help you get planing, but you might end up tail walking, and you can still start spinning out if your fin is too long. If you want to get maximum speed, the smaller and smaller you can go within reason until you can't get the board going or you're constantly spinning out. So what is spin out? I've thrown that term around a few times. I've got a suspicion some of you guys watching this movie or listening to this as a podcast are not sure just yet. Spin out is where it feels like the board has lost its fin. The fin has fallen off from the bottom. That's what spin out is. You're hammering along in a straight line, things are going well, and suddenly you're going sideways at speed. That's what spin out is. And it happens for a number of different reasons, one of which, and this is where the two subjects link together, that's me going around a jibe, by the way, back in the foot strap, away we go. One of those reasons is having a fin too small or too big. The fin is too small, I don't have that sideways, that lateral resistance. The board spins out. Too big, and the board starts to tail walk. And because the board isn't stable from front to back or side to side, the fin can't do what it's designed to do, and it creates turbulent water flow. The water's kind of all over the place, air starts to get mixed in around the fin, and again you start spinning out. So finding the right middle ground of not too big, not too small, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, is quite important for spin out. Setting that equipment right. Another big reason for spin out is, of course, us, what we're doing. Now, right now, as I'm blasting along, and let's do it more, I'm going to put a lot of tail pressure, a lot of back foot pressure. It really rakes me upwind. And I'm doing that, although, yes, I'm pushing hard sideways on the fin. The fin is a long fin, and I'm very much sideways. I've got my bum down to the water, and and I'm absorbing the chop. I'm not just pushing it and letting it rattle around. The suspension on the board, my ankles, my knees, my hips are working. So as the board bounces over the chop, I'm keeping it stable. I often see a locked out back leg and people wondering why they're spinning out. Because yes, you need tail pressure, you need back foot pressure to get a wind, but if you just stand there shoving on that back leg, you're probably going to end up spinning out. Another big reason for spin out, I find, is not using the harness enough. Not using the harness or actually hanging off the boom enough. As in, we need to channel that power efficiently through the mast, into the board, and then it accelerates me forward. As soon as we start to stand up, I haven't really got the sail locked in its position particularly well. Power is channeling all over the place, and then it starts messing up the trim of the board, and then once again, you start to spin out. The people to look for spin out are the freestylers. Freestylers have got pretty small fins for the board and the equipment and everything they're on. Deliberately, because they don't want that grip when they're starting to throw the board and sail around the place. Spinning out or slipping sideways is part of freestyling. There's a bit of a balance, and it did get to the extreme a few years back. Fins were getting down to about the size of credit cards. Very, very small little fins, which kind of worked during the trick, but it made it very difficult to sail in a straight line. To be honest, that was about 10 years ago. There was let's say, an era of freestyle, much when Vulcans and Flackers and Spocks, that sort of spinny, slidey move were at their heyday, and everyone wanted slidey, slippy boards. Now most of the moves are going explosive and aerial, so the fins have actually got a little bit longer, allowing for a slightly higher top speed, and then more speed, and then more explosion into the pop when they actually go for the move. As a result, freestyle boards have changed design quite drastically in the last 10 years, but I think that's a whole other topic we'll put to one side for now. How do you correct spin out then? That's probably what you want to know, is it keeps happening. How do I get out of it? The easiest solution is slow down and restart. What we're trying to do is get the nose in front of the board once again. As in, when I'm spinning out, the whole thing is traveling sideways, laterally. I need nose in front of fin. And as soon as I can make that happen, it'll lock back in the water, it'll feel like you just hit train tracks and you'll be blasting in a straight line once again. So to get the nose back in front of the fin, a scissory style action, pulling your back foot under your bum, whilst kicking and pushing your front foot away, and even a bit of sheeting in with the sail, actually pushing that rig forward and doing some rig steering, not just foot steering. As you do this, you'll naturally start to bear away a bit, so that is the other kind of goal with it, is there's the technique, but the tactic is bear away, because that will get the nose back in front of the board once again. There is a bit of chat I've heard about jumping. If you can jump, if there's not too major spin out and you're in enough control, you can do it. You can actually give it a little bit of a pop. And as you land, the tail comes down first, you give it a kick with the front leg and repeat that scissory style action. It's not easy though, but it is one method I've heard discussed, and it is possible if you've got the skill. I think, to be honest, if you've got the skill to do that, you already know the scissory style action. All you're doing is taking it into the air, which is, again, a skill. It's hard. There we go. That's a few little thoughts on fins, spin out, how they all work, how they all fit together. I hope you found this a little bit useful. Many more subjects on the Ridealong channel, and most importantly on this board meeting series, which I hope you're listening to pretending to work in an office. I hope you're listening to this in a place when you want to watch windsurfing on telly, but you can't. Maybe you're driving a car or a van and you're like, I just love windsurfing, I want to hear more about it. This is one way. Or maybe you're on your way to a windsurfing spot and you've got this loaded up, ready to give you a bit of stoke before you get on the water. It's all good. What I'd love for you to do though is hit that little like down at the bottom, hit the subscribe button, and maybe even share it around your windsurfing buddies. That would be amazing. And of course, if you are coming out here to Vassiliki at any point, drop me a message. I've got group clinics, private coaching clinics, all kinds of stuff going on all the time. So come and get involved with me here this summer, or whenever you're watching this. I'm sure I'll still be around in Vass. Thanks again. I'll see you on the water very soon.